today I am showing you how I make this hoodie. I have hacked a pattern. So what I did was I used M6614 and I did view C, which is slightly more slender, but then I have hacked it to add a zip in the front and I added the ribbing to the bottom just for something a little bit different. I didn't put any pockets in. I possibly should have, but I will survive without them. And yeah, so this is what I've made today. And I just kind of make it up as I go along. So if you want to watch the video and show you how I alter the pattern, because originally I wasn't going to have this band. But I do also show you how to accommodate the zip in the front for the pattern. So if you want to see how to make it, please stay tuned. Righty-o. So I've got everything I need in my tub here. I actually bought some some ribbing for the cuffs. So that's going to be a little bit fun. And we're going to start here with the sleeves because they're pretty quick and separate from everything else. So I'm just going to pop the box to the side so that you can see what we're doing. So these sleeves have a split at the top. So the first thing we want to do is sew that split together and it gives us the shoulder. So I'm just going to put them together at the edge like that and then line it up with my plate. So the plate actually has where I need to line it up at. And then we're going to stitch and back stitch just to lock our stitches in, and then down we go. So I'm just using a normal 80 needle today. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to back stitch and I'm going to grab the second one and do the same thing. So right sides together at the top here, like that. And then I'm going to lift it up the foot so I can stick it underneath and do a couple of stitches forward and back to lock them in. And then back stitch at the end as well. So it gives us this little kind of dart at the shoulder. So now again with right sides together, I'm just going to actually create the sleeve. So we're going to sew this long straight edge along here. Now the fabric that I'm using today is a double knit. I think it's Ponte double knit maybe. It's definitely a knit fabric. Then I'm going to make sure that the bottom lines up when I get to about halfway because I'm not using pins. If you're new to sewing, by all means use pins. It will help to hold everything evenly for you. And then I'm going to back stitch at the end and grab my second sleeve. And we're going to do the same thing again. Now I will be overlocking all of these. I have done a video where I use an overlocking stitch on this machine, but it does take a lot longer. And I did just change my overlocker over to cream so that I could do this. But I'm not going to overlock this yet. I'll wait till I've got more pieces. If you're at home sewing and you have a domestic overlocker, you just sit it next to it and do one piece then the other. And you can just switch like that. About getting a domestic overlocker for video purposes, but that feels wasteful, so I haven't done it. So that's now our sleeves. So we're just going to sit them aside because we will need to overlock this before we add our cuff. So we'll just move on to some other pieces. So this is our back because I write it on here. So we had to cut this one on the fold. So you can open out the back piece. I also did try to center the design a little bit so it would look nice. If you've got excess fabric, fussy cutting, which is what it's called, is always a good thing. I do it whenever I can, but sometimes I don't have enough fabric. So this is the front. So I'm looking for the other back. So this is side back. So this one's back on the fold, the one that I've laid out flat. And then these fun little shapes are to go at the side. So we need those next. So I'm going to just take one, and I stick one on my shoulder so I know where it is. I'm going to take one and put it right sides together. Now the flat long side goes against the flat long side. It only fits together one way. So this particular one, I'm going to start at the bottom so that I've got the bulk of the fabric out of the way and the smaller piece on top so I can guide it better. So then we're going to stitch and back stitch. And then sew along the edge, making sure everything's lined up. Now this hand here is not pushing the fabric, it's just helping to guide it to make sure it doesn't get any issues. So now I'm going to come and line up this end as well. Hold that steady. Back stitch when I get to the end. Now I can't chain stitch this one because I need to do the other side, but you should now have this piece in here. The pattern, actually, I have hacked this pattern, which I talk about at the start of the video because I haven't done it yet. Because I wanted a more fitted hoodie rather than the men's baggy one from this pattern. But I also wanted the zip. I didn't want to pull over. So I matched the two parts together to come up with this. Right, so the reason I just had to lift that then was it got a little bit stuck. I think my needle, this will be the last project I do with this needle, and then I'm going to switch it out to a new one. So needles are only supposed to do about 9 hours of sewing, and then the tip is too blunt and you should change it out. And I think this is my last project. Either way it will be. Because it sounds like it's requiring a little bit more effort to push through the fabric. So then we're going to back stitch there as well. So now that is our back and our side back. So in my lap, I'm going to put that aside. And then I'm going to grab my front. Now the front does want to be cut on the fold, but what I did was I added a 1/2 inch seam allowance and then cut it. So as you can see, my pattern is smaller than this, and that's allowing for the zip spacing at the front. So we now have two fronts, so I'm going to lay them both down flat like this, and then we're going to grab our side fronts, which is basically from here under the arm. And so I'm going to take one with right sides together. Now the tallest part here needs to go to the furthest part, so that goes to this one. But again, I like to have the smaller piece on top, so I'll be sewing this one from the bottom and then the other one from the top. You don't have to do that, and if you've pinned it, it won't really be an issue, but I like to be able to see what my fabric's doing, and it's always easier to have the bigger one on the bottom rather than the top. But that is very much a personal preference. You don't have to do that. So now I'm nearly halfway. So I'm going to come and line up this end and then just hold it together so my fingers are pinned. Now if you don't own an overlocker, you can just zigzag the edge of this. And when I say the edge, you want to actually catch the edge with your zigzag. Not that I think this will fray, but I don't like to take chances and I don't like to hand wash, so I always overlock. So now I'm going to take the other one and do the same thing. And then we're going to join these to our back half, so that we're going to have one piece that goes all the way around. And then we can go to the overlocker and overlock everything. So this is a nice quick project. It doesn't take that long to cut, nor does it take long to make, which I like. And everybody needs a hoodie. Trim that. So now I've got these pieces. And if you've done it all correctly, up here should be nice and smooth between the two, like at the seam. So this is our back. So I'm just gonna lay this down like this. And so now I want to grab this one. So we want the shortest side, because this is our front center. This is where our zip is. So we're gonna lay this down, and then these should perfectly line up. And so we're gonna sew our side. And then we'll do the same to the other side. And I could have just sewn them all as one big long thing, but I'm doing it this way to explain to you why we're doing it. One end. Make sure you're trimming your tails as you go. And then we're going to do the other side. So I'm going to flip it over because I know I'm going to sew it bottom to top. And then I'm going to take this piece and put that here. This fabric was from Spotlight. I think I found it on the clearance table actually. I just went to knee lift then, for anybody that missed that. I went to like lift up the foot with my knee because that's what my other machine does. Okay, so now you should have this. So this is our back here, and then you've just got all these pieces. Now before I can go any further, I will need to, what's this piece? This is the hood. So we might do the hood actually, and then I can overlock everything all at the same time. So the hood is obviously just a hood shape. So you just will have to put them right sides together like this. And the straight edge is the front. So we just want to do the curve. And then I can overlock everything. And that way I only really need to do, I'm only going to need to do about 2 trips to the overlocker. So the first one will be for all of these bits, and then the second one will be the final bit where I'm attaching everything. So with a curve and stretch fabric, you want to make sure it's not stretching as it's going around the curve. So I'm really not putting a lot of pressure with my fingers here, because I don't want one layer to pull more than the other. Okay. So that's now our hood done. Now with the overlocking, I am also, so not only am I going to overlock this curve, but I'm also going to overlock this front bit so that then I can turn it under and stitch it. So I need to overlock that. I'm going to overlock the edge where the zip will go, as well as all of these seams. And then I'm also going to do both the dart and the arm sleeve. So I'm going to go overlock all of that, and then we'll be back to finish it off. Alrighty, so I have grabbed my Wonder Clips, and so now we are going to install our arm. So I've chucked one in, but I'm going to show you the other one. So first what we need to do is turn the sleeve right sides out like this. And then we're going to take the seam and we're going to join it into the bottom point of the arm. So we're going to join those two, and you want to make sure that the seam allowance is going in opposite directions to really make that sit as flat as possible. And then I'm going to chuck in a clip. Then I'm going to come up to the edge. Now, the sleeves do have a right and a wrong side. So one side, this fits really, really well. If you find that one half is gaping, try it with the other sleeve, because it means that you've got it on the wrong side. So I'm just going to clip all of these, and I'm going to take this seam here, and it should sit flat against one side of the fabric, because you want to capture that seam into the stitching of the sleeve, and that way it's not going to flop around while you're wearing it. So I'm just using Wonder Clips because they're quicker. You can also use pins. So I'm going to grab this point and this point here and bring that up and around, adding in some clips. And then same thing with this part here. So see how that way it sits up a little bit, but if I push it this way, it tends to sit into the seam a bit better. So now I've got both of my sleeves attached. So now I just need to stitch them in. So I'll just start with this one. Doesn't matter which one you start with. You can also, you don't have to clip them both at the same time. Grab my foot pedal, go forward and reverse. And I'm just going to slowly move around and remove the clips as I come to them, because you can't sew over the clips. I'm just going to readjust all of this fabric so I'm not fighting it. You just kind of want to twist it around. You always want to stop with the needle down before you rearrange everything as well. At the end, and then pull it out and snip it off. So that arm is now installed. So we're just going to do the same on the other one. So I already clipped this before the video. Mainly because I was on the phone to my brother. He rang, so I answered it, but I can't record while I'm on the phone, so I clip the sleeve instead. Okay. Again, I'm twisting it around so that I'm not fighting the whole jacket while trying to sew the arm. Coming up to the end, again with the back stitching. And so now it's really looking like a jacket. Now, if I didn't want the hood, I could just add a small amount of the ribbing to the top and make it a little bit more bomber jacket. but I like hoods. They protect me from the rain. So, the back piece at the top and the center, I'm going to fold both of these together and join the seams over here to find the very, very center. And I'm just going to do a small clip so I can see it. And then I'm going to take my hood and the half that I didn't overlock, so it should be like the curvy part, I'm going to grab the center seam and I'm going to line it up with the center back, like so, and clip it together. Now again, you can use pins, you don't have to use clips, I just am. So I'm going to work my way from the center out. Actually, before I do that, I lied. We need to overlock the armholes because sewing this down, I'm going to go over this. So if we overlock the armholes, then I won't have any potential fraying. So since we need to overlock, we might put the cuffs on because I'm trying to go back and forth as minimally as possible. So, sleeve, cuff. So the first thing we need to do is fold them so that they're not as long and stitch them together along here. And then we're going to grab the second one and do the same thing. Now, this particular ribbing, I can't see a right and a wrong side, so I wasn't super worried about that. Now that we've done those, I don't need to worry about overlocking that bit because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half so that that seam is going to be on the inside. So you can basically go where the seam is, grab both sides and fold it together and then just pull the cuff around. And so now we have a beautiful cuff. We're then also going to need some wonder clips. And I'm going to find the halfway point. So by doing that, so this clip is where the join is, and then I just want to find the halfway point and put another clip. And then we're going to do the same to this one. And that's going to make it easier to join it on. So again, we just want to grab this seam. You can even open it out flat, and then that seam, and then fold it over, and it should all just kind of fit together lovely. I actually like that better with the folded out seam, so I'm going to go back to the other one and do that because it feels less bulky. I'm not about the bulk. Then I'm just going to pop my fingers in and pull, and so then where my other finger is the halfway point. So for this bit here, I just want to fold this out so it's flat. So I'm taking this seam and opening it like that, and then come back and join it together. Now I didn't need to take off the other clip because halfway is halfway, no matter which way you look at it. Right, so they are going to be the cuffs. And they're nice and stretchy, which is wonderful. So, take a sleeve and take a cuff, and the part where the join is, I'm going to put the join on the join. So right there. Then I'm going to pop it over the sleeve like that. And again, I'm going to find the halfway point like this. So I'm going to stretch it out and then add the clip. So we're just going to stretch it out so it's all nice and even. And then I'm going to add a bunch of clips around this to hold it in place. So it may not look like it's even, but when I pull it out, everything sits flat, and that's what we want. So I'm going to pinch here and then add a clip or a pin if you're using pins. Both will be fine, doesn't matter which. So again, pull it out, And then I want to add 2 clips in here. Like that. So we're going to do the same to the other sleeve as well. It's not the perfect green match, but it is close enough. So, seam to seam, add the clip. You can even add 2 clips if you're worried it's going to move on you. And then we basically turn the sleeve inside out, so it's going to go over the whole sleeve. So I'm going to hold it like that so that I know where to add the clips. So you do need to stretch this out a little bit because the ribbing should technically be, it should feel smaller than your sleeve, but when you stretch it, it's fine. Because if the ribbing's smaller and you have to stretch it to attach it, it means that it's going to hold in the heat and not be baggy around your wrist. And that's what we want. So, this is now what we've got. And the reason we're doing this now is because I have to go back to the overlocker and these will need to be overlocked. So, actually I'm going to need that to put them all back in. So I'm going to have it with the inside up. So I put all the clips on wrong, but that's okay. And then we're going to bring it under here. I'm going to stitch and I'm going to back stitch. And then I'm not going to pull it as far as I can, but I am going to stretch it out just a little bit. To make sure that everything's going to do its job. We also want to make sure we're going to keep twisting all the fabric so that we're not fighting everything. Like this. It. I'm not stretching it like this. I'm just giving it like just a little bit. And then back stitch. So that will now be ready to overlock. And that'll just seal off all those ends. And then you won't see that join from the outside. So that's now what our cuff looks like. It's a proper cuff. It's beautiful. But you will need to overlock this or zigzag it or do any kind of overlocking stitch you have on your machine. Just depends on what you're using. So we're going to do the second one. Pull. And if you find it's not moving, kind of also stretch it and pull it slightly from behind if you're having trouble. And that could just be over like a thick spot, or your machine just might not be loving the ribbing. Could go either way. 1 and 2. Ah, get off clip. And then back stitch when you're back to the start to lock everything in. And done. So we are now going to go and overlock those so that they look beautiful. And we need to go and overlock those sleeves in so that they also look beautiful. And then we can attach the hood and the zip and then finish it all off. Rightio. All done there. So the cuffs are now beautiful. And then when you look in, they've been overlocked so that they sit all beautiful and neatly. It also makes me want to put the band along the bottom, I think. The more I look at it, the more I think it's going to look fabulous with the green matching band along the bottom as well as the cuffs. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. It's my jacket. I'm allowed to change my mind. So, back to the hood. So when you hold it, the longest part here, the bit that dips down, is the front. So this is the back here. So we're going to go back to attaching the center back, which is here, in line with that seam. And then I'm going to move my way out. And this way, now all of these seams are overlocked as well, so they're not going to cause any problems, which is lovely. I love it when everything behaves itself. And this should come out all the way to the edge. Actually, it should come out past the edge because I haven't hemmed it yet. So it actually should come to there. So remembering that this is going to have a zip, we actually have too much. But I can fix that. Because like I said, I have altered this pattern a bit, so I need to allow for such things. This hood actually overlaps at the front of the other one, whereas this one is going to have a zip, so I don't want that. So all this excess that we're seeing is actually the overlap that I didn't take into account. But that's okay. Again, I'm going to fix it. It's going to be fabulous. So I want to leave off this last clip. I don't want to stitch it all the way to the end because I need to put the zip on. So I'm going to give it about an inch, which will give me enough room to do everything else that I want. And then I'm going to start stitching it on. So again, you want to make sure all the weight of your garment is not flopping off the edge of a table because it pulls. And we don't want it pulling. To this end, I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to stop about an inch away, like that. So you should have this little gap. Because this is too long, we are going to fix that. This is what happens when you start altering patterns. So this is my zip. It is an open end zip, which means that it will separate. That's what open end zips mean. So if you're ever shopping, this one is a birch zip because that's all I have access to. So this will actually split apart so that I can get fully into my jacket. So open end zips come in jacket sizes that you can also get invisible ones. So invisible zips that open for like little crop tops and things. Oops. So this is our zip. We're going to need a zipper foot. So my zipper foot for this particular machine is a clear plastic one. So we just take off our other one and put on our plastic zip. And this allows me to get closer to the teeth. Now obviously I don't want to sew on the teeth, that's bad. But you don't want to have too much of a gap either. And these feet are quite wide. So this one is the better option for what we're going to do. So this is the top. I'm going to do this where you can see. Right, so here is the outside of my jacket, and this is the way I want the zip to sit. So I need to go from the bottom, keeping in mind I am actually going to put that extra bit on. So what I need to do is I need to flip this zip over onto it because this is the side that I want to stitch. Now, again, if you want to, you can add some clips. It's entirely your call. Clips just kind of help to hold things together so that it won't all shift and move and carry on. I actually think I want to add the bottom first. The more I think about this, the more I want to make sure that the zip's going to sit where it wants. You can't take, with an open-ended zip, you can't take anything off the end because you'll lose your bit. So any shortening I need to do will need to be at this top end. And even though I don't have these little bits, you can just bend the zipper over and that will still stop it from going any further, or you can do like manual hand stitching. So we want to put our bottom bit on first because that's going to look better. With a 5-inch strip. And then what I did was to figure out how much I'm going to need, I actually just wrapped it around me like this. So you don't want it to be pulled super tight. But as you can see, this has got a lot of give. So this is going to sit around me beautifully. So therefore it's going to fit along the bottom. That's the general rule, because again, I'm making this pattern up and I'm altering a base pattern. So first thing we need to do is fold it in half and then attach it to the bottom on the right side. So the reason we're still putting right sides together. So if you've got a ribbing that's got a pattern, make sure that that way is going to sit the right way. And the reason we're doing it on this side, right sides together, is because when I overlock this, it's then going to be underneath and you won't see it. So then I'm going to clip the other end. So we want to make sure that everything is folded the same way so we don't have any twists, because that would be a big waste of work. So, clip it here. We're going to work our way backwards, like this. And so then when I pull this, it should even up. So see how I'm stretching it a little bit. So I'm just going to come to the center and then clip there. Because once the center's clipped, then everything else will just fit. Oh, see, no. I'm going to pull it a little bit more. And what this will do as well is this will pull in the bottom so that it's not just hanging. It'll make sure that you stay extra warm. And with the weather here and the fact that I'm staying here another year, I need some warm. So again, I'm just clipping it as I go. Like that. And then there like that. So now I just need to do the same to the other side. We also need to make sure that the ribbing's staying at the same level. Now, if you're having trouble with the ribbing and it's moving, what you can do is pre-stitch it together, or overlock it if you would prefer. Because we all know how I feel about doing 3 layers at once. But the ribbing for me seems to be staying right where I need it to. So that's a positive. Hold and clip. Lift this up. Clip and clip. And you'll notice I did leave in where I decided to change my mind, because you're allowed to change your mind. See, and then that's going to look fabulous on the bottom of this. I like how this is turning out so far. I think it's going to be fabulous. Right. So now we are going to stitch this on. So I'm going to put the weight of the jacket on the table, and then I'm going to start, actually, we need the other foot again. I'm going to take off this one clip and I'm going to fold this the wrong way and stitch that end close. I don't want to be able to see into my ribbing. You could leave it open if you want like a secret pocket in your jacket for whatever reason. Because this doesn't have pockets, you could, you know, stash your keys in there or something if you wanted to, but I don't need that. So I'm going to just stitch the end and then clip it back on. And I'm going to do the same to the other end because, again, I don't need a sneaky pocket. I also don't need things getting caught in there, like lint and stuff when it's in the washing machine. So we're going to flip it over. We're just going to stitch. Now, I'm not doing a full seam allowance on this. I'm just stitching the end close. like that. Poke it back out. Crisis averted. Ta-da! Add in some clips. Right. So back to this end. So I'm just going to stick it under my needle. I'm going to slowly backstitch there so there's extra layers. Instance, pins would potentially be easier because you can sew over pins. But this is not all that bad. So now, how cool is that? We've got like this cool edge. So I need to overlock this and then we can install the zip, I promise. And then it's just zip hood and we are done. Lift that all the way up, change that over, and I will be right, oops, back. Just tried it on, I'm very excited. All right, zip. So I'm going to start with the right side. I'm going to lay it on the table like this, and then from the bottom, I'm going to take the zip and put it right sides down, lining up the bottom of the zip with the bottom of my ribbing. That is important. I'm also going to fold up this. So it's going to fold upwards, not downwards. I'm going to clip that in place too. And I'm going to work my way up the zip. Now again, you can use clips, pins. You don't have to use clips. I just have them, so that's what I'm using. And we're working our way up from the bottom because again, we don't care so much about the top because we can fold the excess over. What I can't do is cut the bottom off because that's where our opening is. Otherwise it won't open like a proper hoodie. And because it opens, it gives us an extra thing that we get to do as well. So, now that I've got the ribbing on, this pretty much goes all the way up to the top, like so. And then you just want to double check. So you want to roll this over and make sure that it is going to do what we need it to do. And it's good. So now we are going to stitch it. Now this foot, I should have explained. So this foot that comes with these machines, you can actually clip it both sides. So you can have your needle on this side or this side. So this foot is going to come in handy installing this zip. So I'm going to start with it on the left side. And then, if you want to, you can actually completely remove the other half of the zip. If at any point it's annoying you, you can just take it off. Like that. I'll pop it over there. And that way it's not distracting you or anything like that. So, I'm going to start right at the top and stitch and back stitch. And then continue along. Now, the way this foot is designed is the foot should pretty much go along next to the zipper so we can get really, really close. And because we've overlocked the fabric, that's also not going to be an issue for us. Then I'm just going to slowly take off the clips. again, making sure the bulk of the garment is on your table. Next clip. Next clip. And we're just going to work our way down. And so that extra ½ inch I took off is pretty much what I'm taking off right now. So it should still fit the same as the other one. And then backstitch when you get to the end to lock it in. Trim off all the tails. And then check it. Love it. It's in. I haven't stitched over any of the anythings, so we're all good there. So now we're going to come and do the other half. So I'm going to put it on the table backwards. So we still want to check this. So we need this to sit this way. So we're going to fold it over. So you want to go up and over. Although it is much easier to deal with when it's separated. If this was together, you'd have like a big loop. So it's much, much easier to do this when it's not attached. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to work from our bottom up. Make sure everything's lining up in place. You don't want to stretch the fabric or the zipper tape. So everything should just lay nicely. And I know for a fact that needs to go there. So now I can just clip it or pin it or whatever we're doing. So that is now attached. Now, if you want to work bottom to top, you can just pop it in like this. If you want to work top to bottom, you can actually take the foot off and stick it on the other half. And so now I could work top to bottom. The downside with that is I will have the bulk of my fabric in the throat of my machine. So I'm actually, because the zip can be separated, I am going to stick with the left side because it means less bulk in the machine. But if this was a joined zip, I would in fact use the other side and just deal with the bulk because it's easier. But I've got lots of clips in place, so it should be fine. So I'm just going to pop this under. I'm going to stitch. You're always going to remember the end of the zip's a little bit plasticky, so it can be a little bit thick. And we want to back stitch, lock it in, and then off we go. So again, move all the bulk. It was in my lap. And backstitch. Locking in that zip. Now before we go any further, we want to zip it together and make sure that it's even. And it is not. It's even at the top. See at the bottom, it's like a quarter of, or no, not even a quarter, an eighth of an inch out, and that's going to annoy me. So I'm going to unpick it. Because that, right at the front, will drive me personally insane. So I'm going to unpick this side, which is the shorter one, because I can actually just stretch this up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pick about 2 inches above where my problem is. because I can't have that. It will literally drive me nuts. So I'm just clipping the stitches, not the fabric and not the zip. Try not to cut your zipper tape. It's never a good idea to cut your zipper tape. Okay. So, the best way to do this is to just take it and lay it perfectly in line and then clip it back down. So that's where it needs to sit. This can now come to the bottom. I need to go the other way because I'm going to stitch it again with the zipper on top. And then put one more clip where the bit is that we undid it. So now when I look, see how it's going to sit perfectly even? So it was just a stretch issue on the band. So I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to go back an extra probably inch away from the clips, back stitch, and that will lock in all the stitches I just unpicked. So I'm going slowly over the bulky area and then down to the end. Get to the end and back stitch. And voila, it is even, which is exactly what I want. So now the last thing is our hood. I will overlock, oh no, that's already been overlocked. Never mind, we don't have to overlock that at all. So the last problem is the fact that our hood overlaps here. Now this is because of the pattern that it was, it's the size that it is. So what I actually need to do is I need to take off about an inch. So I'm going to put a clip, like a snip. That's where it needs to come off to. So I still need some to be able to wrap around so that I've got no raw edges at the top here. So I still left a little bit. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. So I still need to leave some to make sure that it will overlap. But I need to take off about that much. So now all I want to do is I kind of want to veer this into the line. So I don't want to take that much off around the whole hood. It will make it that much shorter, and I like a decent hood that actually fits my head. So all I need to do is take this snip and then kind of just angle it up over here so that it will straighten itself out. You don't want to do a harsh line, and you probably want to get some real scissors. Real scissors are definitely going to help. So I'm just going to take this and smooth out that curve. So you can see I took like a weird triangle. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. So you don't want to do a harsh triangle or it's not going to work out for you. You want to do it slowly. Like that. And so that is now going to fit. But I do now need to overlock that again. Or I could double fold it. Double folding it means I don't have to get off. So let's do that. Put my normal foot back on. The zipper's installed, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to unzip it so that I can attach the last of this. And I'm going to fold back that little bit there. So it should come up. No, I haven't left enough to double fold it. So I am just going to go and overlock that little bit so that I can stitch it on and then fold it back and finish it off nicely. Because the zip goes that way. So you want to make sure that the zip's going to sit flat as well. So you might want to put a clip on there. You don't want to stitch it with the zip open like this, because then you're going to see it. So you need to tuck that underneath and pin it in place, and then we will stitch it. So I will go and overlock this just because it'll annoy me if I don't. So I only really need to overlock this much. And then it still looks, it doesn't look like I've had to actually cut any off because it still looks nice and straight. So let me overlock that and I'll be right back. Overlocking's done. You can hear it winding down in the background. That's what the whirring noise is. So that's where I need it to. So that's how much I have to tuck under. So I'm just going to hold it in place and then I'm just going to top stitch around the whole hood. And I'm going to make this stitch a little bit longer because it is slightly more decorative. And I'm just going to sew this down. And this is creating our hood line so that there are no rough or raw edges. Tuck that under. Stop with the needle down and then readjust. So again, I'm going to flick this so that it's going to sit nicely. And then I'm going to get over to here and I'm going to see how much I need to tuck under, just that much there, just to make sure it's going to perfectly line up. So now I can just join this to there and then do the same on the other side. And then there's just one final step that I won't do on camera, and that is to overlock this last little bit. So it just needs to overlock around the hood line. And then it is ready to wear. I always pre-wash my fabric too, so this is literally ready to wear. But I would just overlock that bit because it looks a bit nasty. Okay, so stitch, back stitch. You can probably go back to a more joining stitch length. Line these two up together. And back stitch. And so that's it. So you've got a nice continuous line here. This is the hood. And then when you put it on, probably should undo it all the way first. It's actually really, really comfortable. Really, really comfy. And I've got a decent sized hood. So it's not, I like my hood to actually cover my head. I hate the ones that come to here. They drive me nuts. So that one worked out really, really well. I hope you make one. Let me know if you do. You can share it in my Facebook group. Let me see what alterations you did. You might add pockets, or you could add like an arm pocket if you wanted to have like a thing. But yeah, let me know.